It's a quick story, a true story. It's the night before inauguration, about a month ago. There was a posh dinner for Donald Trump's big donors. Donald Trump was there, the Donald. And he made the following remarks at this dinner about his recent pick for Secretary of Agriculture, Sonny Perdue. About Perdue, Trump states, "He's a great farmer. He knows everything about farms. He knows everything about agriculture." Trump explains that during the selection process for that cabinet post, he asked the various candidates, "Do you have any experience with farms? Do you have any experience with agriculture?" He then goes on to say they almost all invariably replied, "No, sir, I don't." He made the point of saying that was a disqualifying response. So that brings us to the curious case of Betsy DeVos. So I actually see the selection of Betsy DeVos as problematic on two levels. Okay, the first is on a pure policy level. Now, I view the public education system, probably like many of you, as one of the greatest expressions and reflections of democracy ever created. Betsy DeVos has for much... has devoted for much of her life a dismantling of this very system. She's led rapid efforts in her home state of Michigan to privatize K-12 schools through such measures as vouchers and for-profit charters. The results of this on her watch have been dismal. There's empirical evidence for this. Michigan has more low-performing charter schools, many operating for profit, than virtually any other state. The accountability for those very schools is sadly lacking. There's been no effective apparatus for shutting down or even improving those failing charter schools. DeVos and other reformers love to use this term, school choice. That word choice here serves as a very well-honed semantic gimmick, okay? It's misleading. It's intended to give parents a sense of empowerment as a consumer. But this is not the reality. First of all, we know that education is an incredibly nuanced process of shaping the intellectual, social, and emotional lives of young people that defies any market model. Further, the choice in this case always rests with the target private or charter school. They ultimately get to choose which students will be permitted to remain and which will be shown the front door and invited to leave. And there's ample empirical evidence here too that those who are chosen against and asked to leave tend to be more challenging behaviorally, academically, and emotionally. It's actually a commonly used practice called skimming to make the school reflect better outcomes. The public schools don't have this choice. They're responsible for the education of whomever comes through their doors for as long as they're a student in that given district, which then of course becomes increasingly under-resourced as the money gets siphoned off for these dubious choice experiments. The second level in which Ms. DeVos is problematic is a more elemental level. It relates to her qualifications, or lack thereof, to serve in this position she's now in. This is an individual who has never been employed as an educator, has no training as an educator, didn't attend public school herself, and her children didn't attend public school either. Her selection makes perfect sense. Well, it does if you consider the fact that her family has donated nearly $1 million in campaign contributions to at least 22 sitting Republican senators who voted in favor of her confirmation. And as you probably know, she was one vote of those 22 senators shy of not being confirmed. So that doesn't sound like draining the swamp to me, but it's just me. So among the most significant roles played by the Federal Department of Education that Betsy DeVos is now in charge of is the oversight and enforcement of the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA. This is the federal special education law first enacted in 1975. It is truly one of the crowning moral achievements of our country, providing previously unrealized access and opportunity. Provides previously unrealized access and opportunities to millions upon millions of students over the decades. It's laws like IDEA that make America great. Forget the again. All right. Well, if you happen to view Ms. DeVos' Senate confirmation hearing about a month ago, you might recall when responding to a committee member's question, she seemed to be completely unaware of the existence of IDEA. It's stunning. Now, if she starts messing around too much with this law and weakening it by loosening its very necessary teeth, she will do so at her own peril. As someone who's worked in the world of special education for over 20 years, I have seen firsthand the formidable and justifiably passionate fervor brought by advocacy groups and parents of students with special needs. If you want to see activism, form of a righteous fist? Don't look any further than that. Many, many other questions linger. How are other federal statutes going to fare in her staggeringly unqualified hands? What of Title I, which provides crucial funding for schools with economically disadvantaged students? How about Title IX, which is instrumental in combating the incidence of sexual assaults on college campuses? How is this all going to play out, and are we all going to continue to do our part to vigorously hold Betsy DeVos' feet to the fire, as well as the rest of our elected officials, to be continued?